Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mo and today I'm going to be doing a June wrap up.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
So the first book that I read was one of my favorites. It is Archer's Voice by Sheridan. I gave it a 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. Whenever I rate books, I go by content, writing style, readability, plot development, characters, and just overall enjoyment. So if I give a book 5 stars, it does not mean that it's the peak of literature by any means. It just means that I really enjoy myself while reading it. And to be honest, if it's a page turner or something that I'm like really invested in, I just couldn't put it down. I'd probably give it at least a 3-star review. I've never given a book 1 star, I don't think. I just feel like it's a little too harsh. Like, I've definitely given 2s and 2.5 stars. I try to be more picky about my 5-star reads because I don't like to reread books. And if I give a book a 5-star rating, I'd probably want to reread it like multiple times. Because I am picky about my 5 stars, I do give a lot of books 4 stars. So my average rating is like 3.8 or something like that. A lot of these books will probably get like 4s. So back to what I was talking about, Archer's Voice by Sheridan. I'm not that good at giving summaries yet, so I will just give you like the summary that I find on Google. So Archer's Voice, it says, it is the story of a woman chained to the memory of one horrifying night and the man whose love is the key to her freedom. It is the story of a silent man who lives with an excruciating wound and the woman who helps him find his voice. I don't want to give y'all no spoilers, but I don't tear up at every single book that I read, but I definitely cried a little bit during Archer's Voice. To read a book and become emotional is crazy. And this book did not fall short in the emotional category at all. Like everyone says that I've watched about Archer's Voice, it got me. I will say, if you're not into spice, there was a little bit of spice. I wouldn't know how to rate the spice. I would say the sex scenes gave me just a slight ick, only because of the situation. Sometimes I was just like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this, Mia. I really enjoyed the way Sheridan wrapped up the book and gave us the ending. And that's really all I have to say about the book before I really get into spoilers. This is my first wrap up, so I don't really know if I'm gonna be like the person that spoils things, but I'm gonna try to not. I loved Archer's Voice. It was a 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. It did not give what I expected it to give. It didn't give what the girlie said it was gonna give. I gave it a 2. All of these summaries are not original. I don't know how to summarize a book that I've read for hours. I don't know how to make that 2 sentences. I'm just not good at that. Beach Read is about a romance writer who no longer believes in love and a literary writer stuck in a rut, engaging in a summer-long challenge that may just upend everything they believe about happily ever afters. Happily ever afters. Why did I say it like that? Happily ever after. So this was supposed to be enemies to lovers. They knew each other in the past. I guess you could kind of say they were low-key academic rivals, but it was seemed like it was one-sided. And I don't know, I love a good enemies to lovers. I just love when people when it's actually enemies to lovers, people want to hate the fuck out of each other. They want to kill each other, and then they're like, oh, you actually not that bad, you kind of cool. And then they love each other. I like that. But this, I don't know. It felt really forced, and it just was boring to me. And I gave it a 2 because there were some instances where I was really interested. The whole plot about them experiencing each other's book realms. I really enjoyed that. That was about it. I feel like the book dragged for 60%, up to 60% of the book. I was just disappointed because I was expecting a lot more from the book. And I think my lesson learned with this one is that I should not put a lot of stock into what other people say when a book is really controversial, or what is the word? When it's half in, half out. It's just so many mixed reviews about the book, and I should just have put no expectations on the book. So the next book that I read was The Sculptor by Kristy Marie. This is a new author to me. I've never read anything by her. I can't remember who I watched a video of that recommended this. It was either Cheyenne, the tall book girl, or Jess from Peace Loves Books XO. No, it was Cheyenne. It was Cheyenne. Yeah, it was Cheyenne. Because whenever I hear about what the book was about, I picture her. A little quick summary of the book. It is a steamy second chance forbidden romance full of angsty tension and devastating secrets. Who wouldn't wanna? I could give you the summary that I got when I read the book. Basically, the sculptor guy, he is a plastic surgeon, I believe. Again, this was early June and it's early July now. So things are blurry. Things are different now. I've slept since then. And I think the book series it's called The Potters. Basically a brother series, but I believe you can read them as standalone. I read this as standalone. This is the 3rd book, but they're brothers. They do this business together. That's all you need to know. Someone from his past comes back and she's, I guess, getting married to this guy. See, this is why I can't do these. She's getting married to this guy, and she's getting married to this guy. The guy wants her to undergo surgery to get bigger boobs or whatever, so she can, I guess, look what he thinks she should look like for his job description. He feels like she should look a certain way to be on his arm, basically. And Duke is like, your body is perfect. I'm not touching your body. Fuck that. Fuck that guy. Why the fuck are you marrying him? You know, we're supposed to be together. I did not expect what happened in this book. I really enjoyed this book. I don't think I even told y'all the rating I gave it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really close to being a 5-star read. I'm not gonna lie. I teeter and totter. If I reread it, I'm probably gonna give it a 5. Kristy Marie, I definitely want to read more from her. I hadn't heard about her before this book, I don't believe. So I'm really interested in seeing what else she has written. The next book that I read was A Knotty Deal by Leann Ryans. This is like the 4th Omega-verse book that I read. In the month of May, I found out about the Omega-verse world. It just took me back to Wattpad. I grew up on Wattpad. I am a Wattpad apologist. Every once in a while, I do dibble and dabble. My favorite books that I read were either urban hood love stories or werewolf books. It's just kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine. So I read this book because I just wanted something quick to read. Sometimes whenever I read really heavy books, I recently found out that there's a word for this. What is it? Book hangover? It just usually happens when I read a really good book, like really heavy book, and I'm just like, yeah, I need some time. This book, it was about 100 pages. And I don't typically like to rate novellas because I just don't feel like there's enough. I dipped my toe in. I don't know the characters that well. I don't know what's going to happen. There's not enough content for me to feel comfortable reading this book. The next book that I read was Bad Alpha by Kathryn Moon. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It was way too long. And the main character, Eve, she got on my nerves way too much. In a very toxic way, she was very hot, very sexy to read about. But like in person, I know I want to be this. We would not get along. So headstrong and stubborn, and she just wanted everything her way. And I think what I didn't like in her, it was just the sides of myself that I don't like. I was just like, you gotta get up out of here, girl. Because the people that were around her were just really sweet. I didn't even give y'all a summary of the book. Eve ends up deciding not to kill Adam, and she flees with him to her safe houses. She realizes, though, that she's not really cut out to be someone's caretaking alpha. She's feral, independent, and can't give Adam the emotional stuff that he needs. When you read the summary, that's what you get. And then after Bad Alpha, I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series, and I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. One thing you need to know about me and Miss Elsie Silver is we go way back. We go way back. If Elsie Silver has no fans, I am dead. I'm so sorry. She got me into reading small town cowboy bull rider books. It was almost gonna be 4.5, 5 stars, but they're just like minor issues that I had. The summary of this book is Theo Silva, rowdy bull rider, notorious ladies man, scorching hot trouble wrapped up in a drool-worthy package. And he's looking at me like I might be his next meal. But I'm almost free of my toxic marriage and have sworn off men entirely. So all I see when I look back is temptation served up with a heaping side of heartbreak. This is really good. If you look up the tropes of the book, you'll know what I don't want to spoil. That's why it wasn't a 5-star. If you don't want to be spoiled, don't look at my mouth. But there is a trope. And with that trope, I've never read before, so I don't know if it was really done that well, but I enjoyed it. I really liked it. But I felt like it was the only reason why the characters were really together. I know that Theo was really into Winter, but I didn't see it really going anywhere, for real, outside of what happened. The next book that I read was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Poppy and Alex, 2 best friends who are opposites in every way. She is a wild child with insatiable wanderlust. I've never said that word out loud. While he is laid back and would rather stay home with the book. Every summer they come together for a week-long vacation. I didn't really feel the chemistry. I felt like they were very flat characters and they were quite frankly a little boring. I had a love-hate relationship between every chapter being a different year that they went on vacation. It was neither bad or really good. Literally in the middle. Like it was 3. That's better than the middle actually, because 5 is 2.5. Yeah, 3. And the next book that I read was How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days by K.M. Jackson. I found this book through watching a video of Kenya or Lily Reads here on YouTube. She was talking about this book, and honestly, I was really surprised by so many of the bad reviews that I really don't understand why you would not want to read this book. Unless you're like a Keanu Reeves fan, but even then, a 40-something artist who's feeling a bit of burnout. However, when she reads a tweet about Keanu Reeves getting married in 90 days, she decides to use that time to find him, stop him from making the biggest mistake in his life, and maybe convince him to marry her. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I didn't give it a full 5 only because sometimes it was just cringy. Girl, you are 40. I don't know. I try not to be like, so harsh about you're this old, you should not be doing. There's so many things that we should all be doing to connect to our inner child, I believe, and just doing things that make your heart happy and your like, soul happy. But a 40-year-old woman being this praised, at some points it was hard to read. I gave that a 4. It was cute. I love Black love stories. I just loved it so much. I hope that wasn't that big of a spoiler, but you have to know that she was not gonna be with. Okay. The next book that I read was Make It Sweet by Kristy Callihan. This was my first time reading from her as well. A lot of these authors that I read in June were new to me. Literally almost everybody that I read this month besides Emily Henry were new. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And I was kind of shook about this rating because I was teetering. I was like, are you 4? Are you 4.5? 4.75? What could you be? The summary of this book is a charming emotional romance about redefining dreams and discovering unlikely love along the way. Just hearing that summary, I knew I would eat this up. I live in Oklahoma and we had a really bad power outage that had a lot of people without power. And literally like a day or two before that happened, I went to the library and I got 3 books. And it was the last book I talked about, How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days, Make It Sweet by Kristy Callihan, and then Dear Enemy by Kristy Callihan. I ate those books up, all 3 of those books in 2 days. I needed to. The pool scene. I just love when books talk about food and desserts and pastry. Like my mama, she bakes a lot. I'm very familiar with baking and just the way people put love into what they make. Lucian, I think his name was. He was just so fine. He was so fine to me. I wanted him real bad. He pissed me off at some points, which if you read it, you'll know why. The next book that I read was Dear Enemy by Kristy Callihan, and of course I gave that a 5 stars as well. I just really loved her writing. I don't know what to say. Like 2 books back to back by her, I really loved. I am someone that judges books by their cover a lot more than I'd like to admit. And I found her books at the library by the covers. The spine. The summary of this book was a childhood enemies to lovers story between Delilah Baker and Macon Saint. As kids, they were rivals. Delilah and Macon? It's like bacon. Bacon. Delilah and Macon couldn't go one day without bickering and calling each other out. And the fact that Macon, it's hard because I don't remember saying this. I don't remember reading this name. Delilah and Macon couldn't go one day without bickering and calling each other out. And the fact that Macon dated Delilah's sister Sam as children didn't make it better. Sam was definitely not enjoyable to read. I believe they were twins. They were all friends growing up. And some things happened, some miscommunication happened, which is like something I usually don't like to read about. But it was done in a good way. They were together in youth, so Sam felt like betrayed because what inevitably happens with them. But I didn't see it that way. And if you read the book, please let me know what you think. The next book that I read was Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. This was the first book in the, I believe it's called Queens and Monsters series. And it ate. This was a good first book of a series. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and this is the summary of that book. The story follows Natalie, a woman whose life ended when her fiancé disappeared the day before their wedding 5 years ago. She's been adrift ever since, celibate, depressed, and often suicidal. Then, Cage enters her life. He's mysterious, fiercely sexy, and incredibly scary because he just reeks of bad news. So, I'm just going to tell you one of my favorite quotes in this book. You probably can't even have an orgasm with a real penis anymore because you've been hammering your vagina with all those power tools. Your cooch is a construction zone. I don't know why I keep trying to show y'all my iPad. I can just like put the picture somewhere on the screen. But it just reminded me of that, with the construction tools. I like that. Her best friend in the book was really fun. I forgot to mention that these are mafia books. I think this guy is in the Bratva, which is the Russian mafia. Next book that I read was Carnal Urges by also J.T. Geissinger. It is the second book in the Queens and Monsters series. I gave this a 4 out of 5 star rating. The summary says that this is a story about power and control, secrets and lies, obsession, betrayal, and love. As I talked about in the first book, Natalie, this is her best friend Sloane, which I really enjoyed Sloane as a minor character. Is she considered minor? I enjoyed her as the best friend of Natalie, the main female character, but her own book, I really enjoyed. So another quote that I really liked from this book was, take a deep breath and remember who the fuck you are. And I think we should all be reminded of that in all points of life. If you feel like really anxious or like you just don't feel like you know what's going on, like remember who the fuck you are. I felt like it was an affirmation that I needed to write down. Something spiritual was going on. I would just like to say with any book to look at the trigger warnings because there are some topics that some people might be sensitive to. For example, this one talked about, I believe, eating disorders. or weight problems. The next book that I read, surprise, surprise, was Savage Hearts by J.T. Geissinger. This was the third book of the same series, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. So the summary is pretty long on this one. Ooh, it's a big boy. Malik Antonov, he's a myth, a ghost, a legend, a brought-foot assassin so feared some won't even dare to speak his name. He comes in search of vengeance for the death of his brother, but what he finds instead is me. A girl he thinks is someone else, someone unrelated to the man who killed his brother, except I am. And when he finds out my true identity, he decides to take me as repayment for what he lost. Now I'm a little bird trapped in a cage, and the only way to survive is to make friends with the monster who captured me. Except friendship isn't what the monster has in mind. Riley is the main character in this book. She is the sister to Sloane in the second book. I gave it a 3 because I was really annoyed with Riley. I don't always have to connect with the characters, but I think I need to enjoy you a little bit. She was very negative and always comparing herself to her sister. And it was hard because she's the younger sister, and a lot of people do compare them, but they just had a complex sister relationship. I just didn't like how she saw herself. It's all I have to say. I thought besides that, she was great. There is a 4th book in this series. I believe it's called Brutal Vows. I won't be reading that one. The main character is Spider, which you will meet in this 2nd and 3rd book of this series, but you really know him in the 3rd book. I did not enjoy him in the 3rd book. Maybe in the future, when I can forgive him. Not right now. I won't. I thought that Riley was very sassy and strong, which I like to read, but I didn't think she was like a fun character to read like I felt Sloane and Natalie were. I just didn't get her, is my main critique about this. This is why I gave it a 3. Because what was going on in the book wasn't uninteresting, but yeah, she took me out of the story a lot. And then another thing that I noticed that really affected how I read the book was that I felt like J.T. Geissinger made a lot of the characters' voices very similar, and it felt like at some points I was reading the same characters. And I don't enjoy that, especially not in the same series. One of the quotes that I liked from Riley, it's not that I hate people, I just feel better when they're not around. That quote kind of gives you some more insight about Riley's character. She's not a people person. And I don't think everyone that you read has to be, but yeah, I'm tired of like talking trash about this one character. The book was enjoyable. I feel like you would enjoy it. I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. But the next book that I read in the month of June was Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. This is the 2nd book in, is it A Vine Mess? After losing her job and her fiancé in one fell swoop, Natalie Voss returned home to lick her wounds. A few months later, she's sufficiently drowned her sorrows in Cabernet, and she's ready to get back on her feet. She just needs her trust fund to finance her business venture. This was Marriage of Convenience, and I lived. Simply, I lived. Secretly Yours and Unfortunately Yours were the only books I've ever read by Tessa Bailey, so I definitely would like to do a deep dive on this channel about more books from her. I enjoy her writing style. They're very readable, very easy to like just pick up and have a good time. Natalie and August, I just really enjoyed them. There was at the end like a big jump. I think it was like 8 years later or something, like for the epilogue. I was like, girl, what's really going on? The next book that I read was When in Rome by Sarah Adams, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 star rating. The summary says, the story follows Amelia, a pop star who needs to get away for a while. The overbearing people in her life threaten to destroy her love of music, and she needs a break. A big fan of Hepburn's Roman Holiday, Amelia decides to run to the nearest Rome, which just so happens to be in the middle of nowhere, America. Sarah Adams, I had like really nothing bad to say. I just didn't like that bitch Susan. If you really enjoyed Hannah Montana, if you grew up on Hannah Montana like a bad bitch does, and you like Gilmore Girls, you'll enjoy this. I didn't know, but Sarah Adams is a fade to black. Like, she doesn't do spice in her books, and I enjoyed it. I am someone that doesn't mind reading smut, like, at all. Like, I love spicy scenes. I really do. And to not have it, I didn't feel like anything was lost. If you like small town romance, forced proximity, and like celebrity, you'll enjoy this book, I think. Noah was our main character, and I just love reading about male characters that have sisters or just were really close to like their moms or their grandmas. He was just so sensitive, so tender, so sweet. I love Noah. Like, I liked reading their banter, and just their conversation was just really good. The next book that I read was Practice Makes Perfect, also by Sarah Adams. It's the 2nd book in that series. This was the story of Annie and Will. Annie is the sister of Noah in the 1st book, and then Will is the bodyguard of Amelia in the 1st book. Annie Walker is on a quest to find her perfect match, someone who complements her happy, quiet life running the local flower shop in Rome, Kentucky. But finding her dream man may be harder than Annie imagined. Everyone knows everyone in their hometown, and in her hometown, and the dating prospects are getting fewer by the day. I forget what it's called when an author like dedicates a dedication. The author wrote a dedication, and it said, "This one is for the softies, the tender-hearted sweeties, the introverts who are afraid to shine." I love that. Some people were saying that Annie was maybe autism coded. I really love characters that are autistic. Like, every time that I'm really like into a character, I find out later that they are supposed to be read as autistic, and I don't know if I have the expertise to diagnose Annie as that, but if she is, like, that's just another reason why I loved her so much. She had this like guilty pleasure that she didn't tell her sisters, and it was just really interesting to read. Like, I really liked her and Will. I really love a protective love interest. I think you should give it a chance if you liked When in Rome. The next book that I read was Felix Ever After by Kathryn Callender. This is considered a YA contemporary romance, and I am like usually on the fence about YA because reading as someone that's out of high school, some things I don't really feel like reading anymore. And I have to remind myself while I'm reading books like this that the main characters are literally children. Not that I'm saying that children are just like less than, I feel like children are an oppressed group of people and we should listen to kids more. Like, kids have valuable things to say. I definitely like believe that. But the thought processes and decision making that comes with maturing and growing up, there's a lack in young adult literature, I feel like, a lot of the time. I have not read every young adult book in the world, so I don't know. But the books that I've read, just so many things I'm just like, now why'd you have to do that? Like, why'd that have to be a thing? Like, Felix, the main character, I didn't have really any issues with Felix. Not really. Let me give y'all a summary. I keep forgetting to give y'all a summary. Felix Love, a trans teenager who's desperate to find and feel love. In his final year of school before college, Felix is struggling somewhat with his identity. As a trans black queer boy, he worries he's too complicated to find love. I believe this was my first book that had a trans main character. So just to like get more insight about his experience was really enlightening for me, and I enjoyed reading it. This did not disappoint me. I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but it wasn't the fault of the book. I think most of that was really the different characters. There are some things going on that was very high school and very catty to me that I did not enjoy reading. That's not the book's fault really, but it's in the book. So I'm like, you had to get Dr. Point. There were some sad things with parents. It was just really, is the word liberating? To read someone black talking about this. If you're in the gay community, there's just so many like desirability politics and just like things that go into like what it means to be a gay person. And Felix was definitely like outside of the box, and he was just a really, I don't even know how to explain this. I don't have the verbiage to describe this, but it was just a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I feel like everyone should read this book. The last book that I read in the month of June was The Fiancée Farce by Alexandria bellefleur. It looks like it's French, because isn't that how they spell flower? Is that beautiful flower in French? I don't know. But summary of this book was, tired of her stepfamily's questions about her love life, Tansy invents Gemma, a fake girlfriend inspired by the stunning cover model on a best-selling book. They'll never actually meet, so what's the harm in a little fib? Yet when real-life Gemma crosses Tansy's path, her white lie nearly implodes. When I tell you this book was so good, Gemma is one of my new book crushes. She knew who she was, she knew what she wanted, and she knew how to go about that. Tansy, she was also just like so sweet. I love reading about other introverts and just shyer characters. They deserve love too. Just because you're shy or just because you don't like being around people so much does not mean, or like you like to be in a shell, does not mean that you don't deserve to have meaningful relationships with people. And I just love reading those kind of characters as well. This book was almost 400 pages, and sometimes I felt like the plot didn't really develop as well as I thought it could have been, and I didn't really like all the characters, so that's why it was 4.25 for me. There was a lot of drama and things to unpack that were just like, they weren't completely isolated events, but some things I just didn't feel like needed to be included. You'll enjoy this book if you like sapphic romances, marriage of convenience, and I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. I just love when a book has secrets and just people are in cahoots with each other. I just like stuff like that. I eat it up. So that was all the books that I read in the month of June. I definitely found a lot of new favorites and a lot of books that I enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments what books that you read this month. I would like you guys to comment your best book, like your favorite book that you read this month of June. It's July now, so I keep saying this month, but and your least favorite. I won't say the worst book, but your least favorite book that you read this month. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see any future content. Intros and outros are so awkward because I'm trying to put pep in my step, but I'm not like a very like expression person full of expression. Is that the word? Expressive. And he's looking at me like I might be his next meal, but I'm almost free of my toxic I cannot say that word. I'm almost free of my toxic Thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe to see what I'm up to. Thank you.